Recording in progress.
Question.
We're here already. I think we didn't have a counselor here.
Oh, and then we have no.
He's right behind us. After this came behind.
Well, we're gonna get a second TV, right?
Yeah,
That's the
over
plan.
there. Yeah.
So that the audience.
There's 15 to 20 year. It says 15 to 20 year contracts. They have it.
Yeah, and I had a lot of questions about that. I'm like, you guys seem like you're doing really good, but what if you go out of business?
Right.
Yeah, right. Where is that?
That thing I knocked off in Corbin's. Do you remember when I got out of his car?
Yeah.
And it was like the.
Right.
That's called the iDrive,
Uh-huh.
and I now know it is $1,100 to fix.
Oh
my
Oh, my.
And I was like, we were there.
Knocked it off?
City business. That's the only reason I was there.
So years ago, I had a BMW 5 Series. Never again,
Oh,
because everything on it is like that.
yeah.
And.
Tires, everything.
Brett,
How
are you?
Oh. Two sweaters tonight.
I know, I was thinking, with this,
Brett
Humidity.
Christensen owns a German,
Although Dakota said they fix it so they can
mechanic shop.
control the temperature.
and so I was like, don't pay
Sure.
attention.
Ooh,
I got a buddy and he's in French.
we'll see, yeah.
The labor doesn't seem that bad. That is a dealer only product or a part, so it's like, I can't help on that.
Oh, this is the,
Um, No good deed, man.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
Thinking about when we did the promo for the.
Like the one that had the blocks. Oh, yeah.
I couldn't get the file.
It's like, that's the problem, it changes on the road. So I just printed it as is. Okay. Ryan, if we went back and said, "Can you show me this page?"
How are you?
March 2022, what is
It's a
it?
cute little jacket
But I can also.
or a vest.
I can look at
Yes,
it.
I like that.
Once I figured out that, just once I figured out how to do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm working on the copy, but.
Right.
I'm just getting.
Because basically it has.
Well.
Six,
Yeah.
basically had like.
We had any open town halls?
I kept on requesting, waiting for something to pop up.
I haven't seen anything last, I guess, about an hour ago.
These, so Rudy and Wanda, I explained to this is a company that
This is
he,
with Clayton.
right.
Yeah.
So Chief and I met with them here. and
Okay.
This was their deck.
Okay,
I can try to answer any questions they have about it. They do little microgrid power stations
yeah,
and super cool. Then we had this
it
big
is
one.
super cool, yeah.
Yeah, then we had this big conversation with Austin Energy. If we did anything, it would take probably a long time, but still the idea.
It's still something to,
Yeah.
yeah, gotcha, okay.
$3,000 for the queue.
Painter cooking over here. Independent microgrid. Goes out.
But we could make money on it.
Well,
Which-
that makes it a little more palatable.
She's a little more skeptical.
Oh, no, I just was picking up what you said earlier.
Oh,
I missed about making.
maybe it was Chip who was skeptical.
Oh, just listening to your answering questions.
Gloves.
I almost brought gloves, to be honest with you. I thought, oh, that's gonna,
It's hard to.
that's why I brought paper.
Yeah, oh, there you go, yeah. Although you can buy the gloves nowadays for it, so.
Well, you know, the other thing too, when hearing about like people could request your, your laptop or your, if it's not a city property. I think I'm just gonna bring paper.
Yeah, I know.
AGY and then DUD.
Always print one so I can mark what I've looked at.
Yeah. this-
Going ready? Much better?
No idea, maybe I should ask.
They don't mind.
Yeah, a lot of people are suffering allergies.
Yeah, although today's supposed to be a low day, I'm still like dripping.
I can't even go outside and start thinking about
Yeah,
that.
I know, it's like, and this is the first year in for 20 years that I've had this bad problem.
The weather too.
Yeah,
You good to go, Council? Matt, are we good to start? Okay, the time is 5:32 p.m. I'm going to call to order our work session with the City Council, City of Valley, Texas, for Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. With the work sessions, we will take public comments at the beginning of the work sessions, but we're not taking any action tonight, so we won't have any comments during our discussion. And then we'll hopefully adjourn and give everybody a little bit of break before we go into our council meeting at 6 o'clock. So with that, we'll ask if any members of the public wish to speak at this time. Then we'll move on to agenda item 3, which is discussing the following items, but taking no action. The current accounting, financial, and related software issues and staff research from other cities. And we're going to start with, I think, either Matt or Kyle are going to carry this item. It's an introduction, and then we can take some time for council questions. This is an agenda item that we have later in our agenda, so we wanted to create some space for, discussion, and particularly since we didn't want to necessarily take up too much council time with the vendor, we might also have a bit, more relaxed atmosphere for asking questions if we need to. So with that, I'll hand it over to staff.
That's exactly, so we really, the backup for this work session was built off the work session we had back in February. And I'll just give it over to Kyle, because Kyle went and, worked, I believe it was Westlake, right? And so, yeah, we're here just to talk about our processes and what we found, so Kyle.
Yeah, so at our last session, we talked about, we wanted to get some more information, which I emailed y'all some leads. And also wanted me to go and sit in with another city. And Westlake Hills had offered when I was calling around asking about their county systems to become shadow them, so I went and did that. It was enlightening. So I can answer questions a little bit. And so they use Encode 9, the web-based portal for Encode 9, which they call ERP Pro, ERP 10. So we're going to use these terms interchangeably, but we use Encode now. They've stopped calling it Encode. They've started calling it ERP Pro 10, 10 or 9. So we use Encode 9 now. But she'll, so when we're talking to Rob later, she'll also call it Encode. So I had, in the backup, I had sent kind of a general outline of some of our processes. So, well, I sent a copy of our SOP for payroll, and then also the one from Westlake Hills that I went over with their payroll account. And then also just kind of outline generally how our current process works, and then how it would work in the new system from my understanding. So I'm not going to get too much into the detail there, but unless I can answer questions, and I can get into the details if you want me to. But mostly I just want to stress that we need an ERP system for what we do. We have so many different departments that all interact and communicate with each other, and we all have disparate systems that have their own logic behind them. And so it just makes it, and that's these are the tools that city employees use to communicate with each other and communicate with the public. So in general, it makes it really hard. For example, I mean, you can kind of maybe if you're looking through the payroll, the descriptions of the payroll and bank reconciliation, you can see that. But as one example, that one of the things that was really enlightening when I went and shadowed the Westlake Hills was the bank reconciliation process. So right now, particularly the deposits, the way that the deposits work, you know, we run cards on the card reader, we take utility payments, we take payments for court, et cetera, miscellaneous payments. We always print a receipt for the utility payments. Lori prints a report out of Encode. And then we take all of that and twice a month, make one lump deposit for all that. And attach a cover sheet to it where Lori's coding all the different items. And then, so in the accounting system, there's 2 entries, but usually 2 or 3 deposit entries, you know. So then when I go to reconcile, yeah, and there's like 70 pages of backup attached to that cover sheet. So when I go to reconcile, I have all these different items. And then in the bank, you know, the bank batches the utility payments every 3 days. The permits show up sporadically. So et cetera, et cetera. So I have to go and match, there's like 70 pages of paper backup to various systems. And bank reconciliation, I don't know how familiar you guys are with that process. In general, it's supposed to be like check the box here, check the box there. Takes 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour. It's really tough. I mean, and so I've had Angel, our new remote account, helping me with the contract. And both, and because doing it, I kept thinking like, but no, it takes her 8 hours. 8 hours to reconcile one thing.
Where did you never do this?
Just, I think she was so familiar, you know, and you do it so often, she was, you know, she could compile it together. It's just familiarity. I mean, she used MIP for the 20 years she was here.
She set everything up too, so like, I had to discover things, where she can like remember it.
Where things go.
And yeah, I'm sure it still took her a long time, longer than it should. So when I was watching, you know, just briefly the Westlake Hills people doing it. So for example, you know, the utility payments are processed in the same system. So when they batch, it makes that entry into your bank. And so when you go to reconcile the bank, it looks exactly like it does on the statement, takes 0 time. If you want to make sure that each individual deposit for each individual customer is within that batch, there's a little button you can click that says batch detail. That just blew my mind. It's like, oh, it makes sense. And because when I was talking to Lori, when I would show Lori that bring her in and be like, you see how hard it is to reconcile the bank? What can we do with the deposits to make it better? She's like, I don't know, this is what I've always done. It's always worked. And that's because every other city uses the whole Tyler ecosystem, you know. So that was just kind of enlightening. And then, so I don't know if you guys have a question.
Instead, that's what she's always used, not here, elsewhere.
In other cities,
Yeah.
This is how she would enter deposits, is
Okay.
people would give her receipts, she would create a cover sheet for all those receipts, and put them on the cover sheet, and then record that one lump deposit in the account.
Well, that's how we do it here, right? Or is that how it should have been? But in other cities that again use they're using the same financial system, financial software as they are for their other modules, you know, include the big ones are utility and court, right? That have like lots of payments. It's all within the same software. So it's not this manual kind of deposit, right? Because essentially that's what it is. Like you close out a batch in the Encode for utility and court. But then you've got to somehow get that information into MIP, and there's no way to do it but to manually, like, you know, manually take that data and enter it into the system. But I think where it takes up a lot of time is the reconciliation piece.
And so I'm talking about this one process as an example, but you do things this way for everything, and it creates friction. And I mean, every time you do something manually on paper, there's room for error. So potentially, if someone prints a receipt twice, now I'm like, well, now I have 2 of these. I have to find where that other one, you know. I mean, and that just happens all day, every day.
And you have all these windows open and you go, okay, yes,
Yeah.
you have reconciliation also, so.
Yeah.
Understood.
So I think it would be very beneficial for the city to have an ERP system.
And I thought the payroll
example was particularly useful as well, because we tend to look like we spend a lot of extra time with the bookkeeping of hours and payroll, like that whole process, right? Which, can you kind of go over how it's like, or how it might be different and.
Um, so I'm just gonna kind of read from here. So the kind of the process of collecting timesheets and getting the payroll process, which isn't the whole payroll process, but you know, how we do it is everyone has a PDF of the timesheet on their desktop. They print out a paper copy, fill it out, and hand it to their supervisor to sign. Supervisor sign it, hand it to me, hopefully, and just hopefully they're handing their timesheets to the supervisors on Friday before we run payroll. So then the supervisors are getting them to me Monday, so then Tuesday I can enter it, and Wednesday we can send it. So then I'm entering the hours into Azure, checking for a bunch of stuff, that, you know, it's not just entering the hours, it's, making sure all the other earning items, and other deduction items are entered, making sure everything's calculating right. There's all kinds of, make sure the taxes are withheld. I mean, our payroll system is kind of a mixture of like do it yourself and have someone else do it. And it's kind of harder than either way. It's probably the cheaper way, which is why we do it. But because it's, you know, it's a web-based portal, so, I don't know, sometimes they make changes and they don't update me, basically. So I like, because that can happen, I have to like be super meticulous. I mean, I would be anyway, but it just creates extra room for error.
Kyle, what happens when you're out on that Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday of payroll week?
I trained Angel to do the payroll, but it's just not realistic that she would be able to like.
So you just can't get sick.
When I was out on maternity, I had to come in. And I think, I mean, that's how it was when Suzanne was here. That's just kind of how it is. So where are we? So then I enter the hours, get the payroll set up in that software, print a report, batch that with all the backup, because it's there. We do timesheets, we do time logs, there's various other backup that might exist, and then send that to the mayor and Matt for signature in Adobe. So, you know, it kind of, there's multiple different software, multiple people handling all the documents that I need. Just more room for error and things to get stalled out, as opposed to it, everyone entering everything into the same system, and everyone confirming everything in the same system. That, you know, it's kind of frictionless. And so the Westlake process we kind of summarized here, just from the documentation that I had. So, you know, so we're also constantly entering back up into the server of the place of the server that we created and pulling it out of there. In Tyler, you know, it has a document management system inside of it. Every report you run, it saves, so there'll never be like a report that you would print and use and then lose and not know where that information came from. You can still save it separately, just because it might be the way that it, so the payroll accountant at Westlake, which I may now, the way that it saves the reports is not very easy to interpret. So she like prints it and saves it anyway on a separate part of the server. So I mean, we could still do, you can still save stuff outside of the Tyler system. It does it automatically. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have questions?
Can you, well, I was gonna say before, real quickly, can you kind of go through the process that you guys talked to the Tyler Technologies books about like what would come first in sequence, you know, kind of like the approach? Because I think this is not something that we can easily accomplish like in a short time frame, but there's certain stages that we would need to go through, and then there's the options, you know, as far as like what else we do. Starting with, like, I guess, first the upgrade of the current utility software to the newer version, right?
Yeah, so we have this quote from Tyler to convert everything. This would be a long process, you know, so the easy part that we would do first is upgrade the current Encode 9 desktop version that we have to the ERP Pro 9 through the web portal. And so she's given a separate quote for that. The maintenance cost on that, and that wasn't included in the last meeting. I sent the new quote that has the whole amount for, you know, the financial system and all the other modules in that. It was attached to the email I sent. But this quote that has, so anyway, the thing that we would be able to do, that we should do first and would be easy to do is convert to get that our Encode that we currently use for utility billing into this online portal. It's a $19,000 maintenance fee, annual maintenance fee, so that whenever we get that up and running, we would have that less the amount that we've already paid for our annual maintenance fee for the current system.
And they did give us a timeline on that, because this is something they do all the time, right? Like, where you take an existing customer that has, you know, Encode 9 desktop and then move it to the cloud. So they did give us a 2 to 3 month timeline for that. And that is that, and then I think that's called the SaaS flip, right? Because the software is, because we're moving away from the current, you know, kind of antiquated desktop version to the SaaS service where it would be cloud based. She did give us a time, an estimate of 2 to 3 months, because that's the financial software, which is what, you know, we really want to get. It's the financial software and human resources, basically payroll. And then, as the mayor said, there's some other optional, you know, we put permitting as optional. There's the Socrata, which is their version kind of OpenGov, but those are all optional modules. But the core would be the financial, you know, the general ledger, you know, their budgeting software and payroll and accounts payable. That's pretty much everything in that financial, the ERP Pro. That does not have a timeline, because that they have and Robin will be here, you know, at the regular meeting to explain, but there's, you know, there's a whole process of, it's like a 6-step process, but it all depends on how long it will take them to convert our existing data, right? And yeah, we're a small city, but we have a pretty complex financial system with multiple funds, and, you know, so they haven't given, you know, we asked for a timeline, but they're just, and I think it's better that they haven't given us, because we know it's going to take a long.
Migration's almost never straightforward.
Right. And the other caveat to that is, and we've talked to other cities, is it's expensive. Like, this will be an expensive process. We will not know how much it's going to cost, because as they start coming in, and they've given us an estimate, so that larger quote is for it. Now with the optional services, it's like 82,000. That again is just an estimate. So it could and probably will cost more than that as they get in, as the engineers get in and start, you know, migrating the data over. It's probably going to cost more than that, because they're just estimating, I guess, based on the size of our city. I don't know really how they came up with that.
They haven't even looked at our data, so they have no idea.
So, and that's 82,000. Was under the impression, correct me if I'm wrong, 29,000 is just the yearly fee.
Correct.
53,000 is what they're putting for professional services, and that may be the variable part.
Correct. We know that will be the variable part. And other cities we talked to, they said, yeah, Tyler's expensive. They will. Nickel and dime you is one of the
Yeah, Matt and I were talking about it, and even the people that said they loved it. I mean, everyone said they loved it, and they can't imagine not using it. But multiple people did say, like, everything that you want to do, if you call and you see that there's some service, you want access to it, I mean, they're going to charge you for everything. They do, yeah. Going on.
So yeah, that's
I can't imagine their engineers are doing anything special. It would be a bummer if their engineers were doing something special that we didn't just have access to. So like the migration of the data, it would be messy. Like me knowing how to do things like this, it's just like, it's messy because there's not, you don't just like write like regular expression stuff to like kind of, like, it's not gonna work. So it's like, it's just gonna be kind of looking and moving it over, moving it over.
Which, like, I would want to do that. I would imagine that I would do that, which would reduce our costs, but it might make it take longer. Particularly what, like with the payroll data, I think a lot of the stuff that's entered in the current payroll system is accurate.
Yeah, that 50 grand, I mean, like, that's it. If that, I mean, it's like, if it takes a very long time, then okay, if that's a short amount of time, I don't know how much they're paying these engineers or how many, or, you know, but like the, I don't know, Angel is that the temporary accounting job?
Yeah, accounting associate, it's a non-regular part-time job. Yeah, it's.
Hello.
Hey, come on in.
So is it one of these positions that we're planning on having forever, or is it just like as needed?
Funded for this year.
Yeah, I just, you know, we had staff and then we had more.
I think it
we had
was,
staff.
I think it was, honestly, I think the position was created to give the county some help, but I mean, if I'm being honest, I think if we get a better system. Like, it'll be great to have the extra help while we're doing this, you know, migration, but in theory, I know.
If we had a permanent position, it would, you know, it would be in person. Yeah.
But are you asking, do we need that position
Well,
continually?
This is
If we have a-
where do we,
If we have a better system, accounting system where a bank reconciliation takes, you know, hours or less. than-
nothing against Angel, but we gotta stop the bleeding somewhere on the money.
And she'll be helpful when we're transitioning because she's using this.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
great.
that's,
Yeah.
that's great. I would like to know if Angel or you could be involved in moving the data over, or we have the resources to just say, do it, but I don't know, it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes.
I mean, that's the thing, that they haven't even looked at the data.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of back and forth. Yeah.
And you said you would want to be involved?
Yeah. If anything they're doing, I'm gonna wanna know what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then probably it's just gonna be easier for me to do it.
How far back are we required to have that information?
5 years.
5 years? And then
But we're also gonna wanna have the historical data.
at some point though, you know, it's just on Laserfish.
Yeah.
It's just
So,
printed out.
we just need the- we
That's
just
what I
need the
would-
5 years and not. I think it would be like they explained it right, it was like 2 years, but then like everything else would be historical view only,
Yeah.
which I guess.
In terms of yeah, 2 years of data, and then they can go back further for historical data. I'm not sure what that means. In my mind, that means they'll transition your like transactional data, go back 2 years, and then further than that, it will be summary information, either annual or monthly.
I want to save you guys time, nothing against Angel, but I don't know why we have 1.5 accountants. And so if this software helped us to get there, then. Yeah.
Well, we have it because, I mean, he's also not just the accountant, he's the human resources manager too. It's a whole other job. So, and I know we used to just have one, but again, Regine did it for 20 years. She really created this system. You know, and so now we've had new people to come in and try to learn it, where it's very, very, very cumbersome.
Did we talk to any municipality that just does everything in Excel? I'm not suggesting that, but
Nobody does that.
Nobody.
So we did talk to,
Really, not everyone uses Tyler.
we did, Kyle is talking to one other company that would be a lot cheaper. However, it's called Edmunds, however, they don't have a court module. We cannot have a court court docket software, so we'd still be stuck with Encode. So you'd still have some of that.
yeah,
It's another ERP system, but they're not as big as Tyler. They're a lot cheaper.
There's only one city in Texas and one county that uses.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we don't want to swallow that pill, that could be another option, but you know, the industry standard would be to go with that type of. Karen?
So of all the places that we could cut and save money in the city, our financial security and our records being accurate for finance and budgeting and our payroll would be the last place I'd want to cut personally. So I want to, we've had nothing but problems since Regine left. She had, like Matt said, she was here for 20 years. She had it down, but she was here. She probably worked as many hours as 2 or 3 people because she was here on the weekends, at night. So just to say that one person could do it in a 40-hour work week is not realistic. And so now we're dealing with, after 20 years of one person putting in all that time and doing it, we have new staff. That person retired. And we have, last year, we had nothing but problems with budget and finance, with all of the stuff with our former people that were there. And so it's time for us to get it cleared up. And so we have clean audits, have clean records, and it's efficient.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you clearly established your case for the need for this. I think my only real concern is really the implementation of it. Yeah, it's expensive. But, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, what I have had a lot of frustration over these last 3 years as a council member of having really late financial statements. And, you know, they'd be like 6 months late. And it's like, really, how do we, you know, it's not the way you run a business, a city. And so, so we need to be up to speed and we need, you know.
And I think it's gonna take, a while, but I think that's good. I don't think, you know,
Yeah,
we don't.
implementation
rush.
is concerned.
And we'll be running the parallel system, so, you know.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll, you know, and there's gonna be speed bumps on the way.
Having done this one of the few times in my career, one, you've got a good transition plan where you're not just throwing out the system by the way, right, you're transitioning over, and you're not putting an arbitrary schedule on yourselves to get it done. And those are both very good things, because migrations almost always can have unexpected problems, things that you never thought of at the start.
Just, you know, I don't know if it helps, but Sean Cox at Greg Springs, who Rudy also talked to, mentioned that when he had gone through the transition, I was asked him how people had done the transition before, how to go. He mentioned that, yeah, he had done it at a bigger city. He didn't say what city, but that the cost, you know, the service fees related to the one-time service fees related to the transition, to migrating all the data and everything, is 1.5 million. So,
Oh, we should know that up front.
So as we get in, if we decide to go this route, as they look at our data, will we get updated estimates?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
we can
so-
track it down the road?
And the later item, it's specifically not a specific amount, but it's to authorize into a contract, and then any budget amendment is going to require coming back to council.
Okay.
For approval. So,
And we also kind of had the idea too of like creating its own, you know, general ledger code, like ERP implementation, so that.
yeah,
We can track it.
We can track it.
Because there's gonna be the annual software, right, which those they can give us, but it's implementation, migration, training, all those costs. But, you know, so our idea is to create a general ledger code so that we can track.
We're thinking like 2 years to get this all up and running and transitioned, 2 to 3 years. Probably.
2 years, probably 2 years. All right, council, we've reached that magic hour. Do you guys need a break before we transition to the council meeting? Are we good to go? Staff, are we okay to go?
we can just,
All right. Okay. I'm going to, the direction will be, obviously, we talked about this at the regular council meeting. So thanks, staff, for giving us a chance to work this ahead of the regular meeting. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn our work session at 6 o'clock. And we're going to go ahead and start our regular meeting. I'm going to call to order a regular meeting of the City Council for the City of Sunset Valley, Texas for Tuesday, March 21st, 2023 at 6 o'clock. And with that, we're going to open the public comments, and members of the public that wish to speak at this time can step up to the podium and state your name and address, and then we'll take it, people in order as they come. Anybody wishes to speak at this time? Go ahead.
Hello, some of you know me as Danny Morgan, otherwise known as Father Vaughn. He, him, and his pronouns, AKA Gordon King, Oregon. The birthday of Jesus Christ. You know, that's gone through a lot of stress related to one pillow on my property, to three pillow. My birds have gone home. The boldness and the sculpture of the Texas Veterans Wall that I made for memorializing these dead killed in action. 800-page book describing the important my rights to property. Goes a little bit like this. I've got a date dated January 4th for the stop work order on my property. And I was real curious as to why. I thought it was a demoing thing. Then I get a letter from, I can only guess who, but it says, this is dated 1/13/23. I, Danny Horgan, 3 Pillow Road, will allow Teresa Anderson of 1 Pillow Road to apply for demolition permit on my behalf. Demolition will include, I would not sign this piece of paper, I can only tell you who wrote it. Imagine your city secretary, Barbara Wilson, wrote it, just my imagination. Okay. I'm an artist, so I think it's a little creative. This is a property that I had picked out, I had ready to purchase 20 acres in the country. This here's something that Teresa wrote to me. She made me sign 3 extensions of a promise to pay me within 8 days of Christmas Eve morning. I was to leave my property within 8 days. I had the job completed. But she came to me and wanted these extensions so I could get the rock wall memorial built protecting some of my property. And I'd rather relieving actually, because I'd love to take my rock wall with me and we won't do so. Says, I agree with you that, oh, and after the 3 extensions, she had me sign what she called a love letter, and that's a promise not to sue her because I was at peace. I bought her a white goose for Christmas, for God's sake, that was my offering. Okay. So I agree with you, this is written by Teresa Anderson, that we've been negotiating on this contract for 6 months. But I felt it was important that you better put a date to the signature. You know, I'm very hard to see, you know, a little splash from my chainsaw. You know, so I am going deaf and not blind in my left eye. But instead of this is a line that, let me just start over, get ahead of myself. But I felt it was necessary, much better date for signature line. Instead of 6 months ago, we started negotiating. People don't usually do business on holidays either. I feel that the title company would not like seeing a signature dated Christmas Day or the New Year's Eve. And you know, so I'd just like to ask you why my Christian cross out in front of my house was there for many years. Nothing to do with the neighbor next door. My Christian faith is, I don't even talk about my Christian faith. I just talk about being a Catholic altar boy because I don't want to, you know, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable in the neighborhood. You know, some of you may feel uncomfortable. And the most gross thing about this city is the city council members that have any more than 2 terms. Council members sit up there for so very long, with so little to offer. You know, you can lock my ears right off, because when I see it, I can hear it. And you know, rely on my neighbors and my community. There was no support, but you put a church next to me that one changed from this church to this praying name. It's now a cult. I have strong feelings against cults. Well, my brother's sculpture, you know, I thought it'd be a wonderful thing to create for my community, but it's obviously, hello, it's not welcome into the community. I go to Dallas, Texas and work at Tornado, and by the time I get back, it was tabled on an agenda. It's already passed and approved. That's when it went from House of some mamas, little love and all that, little house of love. That's a hard meaning for a church, house of love. They have no love to offer. And at that point in time, they went and changed its nameplate to Pray Name. So, you know, I'll be leaving this community. I'm not very happy within this community. I'm sure you've seen that for many years. You know, put on a straw hat till I deserve a felt hat. Somewhere in the country, I've got to know the people there. They're gonna know they have support, and hopefully they'll embrace and support me. This has been very disgusting. I've been out here 18 years. You know, you violate each time I come to talk to you, somebody's violating parking code or something in the city council. You know, chief of police tells me it's not gonna do me any good to get the longest parking provision in Sunset Valley, which we did. You know, 5 Pillar Road's moving out, but there's no peace here on Pillar Road. 3 Vietnam veterans in our community. They've all come to me and told me there was more tension in Vietnam. I've lost 50 pounds over the stress dealing with the neighbor. She has no money to offer. She reneged on her deal. I have a pile of rocks in my yard. I'd honestly feel sorry for any veteran to serve. My brother lost his life and shot 5 times by 50 caliber with Michael McNulty. They massaged his heart until he passed away. Y'all are the ones. Yeah, no, there's human condition, and I'd like to say you're absent of that. I'm gonna grab water, I'm gonna get a taco, and I'm gonna get out of here. Grab a bag of nuts. You know, y'all are donating to a cause. You know, I'm gonna grab 2 of these. Come by my house, quit writing. No more verbal conversation, because everything I've said has been used against me, and you know it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mark.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is the Art Commission's quarterly report.
Okay, in the packet, I did put, the Arts Commission put their report together for their goals for this year that relate to the city's pillars that we came up with. So I won't go over that, but I just put together a slide presentation on where we are so far. We've wrapped up this year during the pandemic. We obviously couldn't do any face-to-face events, which we were used to doing all at City Hall. So we came up with Bringing Art Home. And for 2 years, we did monthly deliveries in conjunction with the PD. A list of people who were shut-ins, people couldn't get out, and the children in the foster home, and delivered these bags to them that one of our residents, Maggie, did drawings on every year. So they were pretty and fun, and they had little kits in them for people to make art. So for 2 years during the pandemic, we did that, and we did our last delivery in December of 22, because now we're getting back into doing things in person. So next, we did the Winter Solstice event, a collaborative event between the P&E and CED, which was a great event. And our role in that for Arts Commission was to get the fire dancers lined up and bring them to do their performance. And so next up on our agenda, we're really excited to bring artist Vicki McMillan Hayes in to do a community collaborative art project. And this will be 2 panels of 6 feet by 4 feet that will come together into a 12-foot mural that'll be on the other side of this wall, on the outside of PD between the 2 pillars, and it'll be installed. And the top painting is an example of what it will look like. But we start on the 31st of March, the end of this month, and we'll have signups are up on the website. I think it's up already. Slots where people can sign up to come and paint. And everybody's welcome. If there's someone who can't drive, we have a contact. You know, if they're homebound and they want to come paint, we'll pick them up, bring them in to do some painting. The slots are 50 minutes, 55 minutes each. Will be set up over at City Hall and will be set up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and have slots all 3 days. And what happens is the artist brings all of the equipment, has the drawing kind of laid out and has all the paints, and everybody gets a chance to add their paint in their section. And then she takes it back to her studio, gets it all cleaned up and laminates it with a protective coating, several coats of it. It'll take about a month for all those coats to dry before it's ready for installing. And so we're anticipating the end of, not the end of May, sometime mid-May for the unveiling and ceremony when we do the installation. So we're excited about that. And then after that, we have Art Fest. Our big event, this will be the 15th annual Art Fest on April 29th. The times this year have changed. We're doing 10 to 6. So based on our evaluations that we got from the different vendors, we wanted to see longer hours and a later start, which will be really nice for volunteers. We won't be signing people up in the dark every morning. So I think it's going to be great. We already have over 100 vendors on our list. Yeah. And very excited. We just reached a $9,000 goal in sponsorship. Thomas J. Henry just came in as our top sponsor at 5,000. So we're really excited about that. We have Central Market, Doc's Backyard, Bluefin, and Texascapes are all sponsors this year. So we're growing that program. We're real excited about that. And I think the next slide just kind of shows the overview of how it's laid out and what it looked like this last year. We had almost 8,000 attendees. We anticipate this year we'll have more. Right on this, the road there where the farmer's market is, they're going to flip over and be where the COVID was set up on the other side. And then where those tents are, where the farmer's market was, will become our food court. And we're very excited about the electrical panel being replaced and hope that Austin Energy makes it hot before April 29th, so we can plug in and not have generators.
Oh, yes.
And then after Art Fest, once we recover from that, last year we had 93 vendors. And next one, oh, this was really exciting too. And I'll talk with Carolyn today about this and Sam. We had over 1,000 participants in the adventure build, which was just amazing. And so it's so fun to see all these kids with hammers in their moms and dads and everybody working, building their own playground. It was so cool. And next slide. After we recover from Art Fest in the fall, we're hoping to bring back the World Art and Culture events. These are just samples of some that we did. East Asia, we had dancers from Nepal, and then we've also done Argentina with tango lessons. And these are events that we used to do at City Hall. So we're looking at coming up with the next theme. I've had a couple suggestions, one being Honolulu and doing hula dancing. Another one being the Cajuns and doing Zydeco. So we got some ideas floating around. If you have any, just let me know. And after that, we're looking to our future plans for next year and actually having City Hall be one of the locations on the Austin Studio Tour, which is a huge event all around Austin, east and west parts of the city. And then we've had one vendor location here, which was at Cat Cantanilla's on Pillow Sculpture Garden. And the more we have in one area, the more traffic that you get to all of them. But we did do a meetup with some of the Sunset Valley resident artists, and people are really excited about getting involved in this. And we'll be bringing back a proposal of how many we can maybe fit in City Hall and what Big Medium would charge for us to be a location on the map. And then we'd get in one of these Big Medium studio books, and people can actually go online and pick where they want to go and make their own maps to do the tour. And it lasts 2 weekends. It's usually the first 2 weekends in November. And so that's what we're up to. Questions?
For some reason, I just assumed we were gonna be painting out here, and I mentioned to Sasha about getting a time lapse of it being painted, but if it's in City Hall.
It's we're hoping to do it on the porch if the weather's nice.
Yeah.
If not, it'll be in the lobby and we'll have the floor all covered. But it'll be on a flat table, the two big panels, and then people will paint and then it'll be installed after it's sealed and,
All right.
but we're not gonna paint on the wall itself. It'll be
Well,
able,
well, I knew it was panels, but I thought they would like install the panels and then we'd be painting out there and I was worried about setting up a camera
oh,
across Jones and then it gets swiped or whatever.
we could do it.
But being able to set up a camera in here to do it.
Yeah.
Would be easy. The other thing I was gonna mention is over between Bob Horgan and the parking lot, there used to be that ramp, which I don't know how accessible it was. I don't know if I'd want to go over it in a wheelchair, but, and then it would like disappeared. So,
Oh, the wooden one we built a long time ago and then I think Public Works rebuilt it and then now there's the metal ramp on the other side.
well, yeah, so you would have to like go
And now,
further down near where the adventure bill. Was.
Yeah, well, I don't think we've had one that goes over the median in a long time.
In a
We have just the
while.
One that ramps up to the triangle and then ramps down to Bob. Orton.
Yeah, I mean, I was down there one time, I forget. I think I was like, it was after the farmer's market one day, and there was like literally a man in a wheelchair that was saying like, where's the ramp? He was like right near it, and I was like, I don't know, so I told him that he had to like go out and around.
is it accessible from the Crush Corner Trail?
Yeah, if you go all the way down to where the adventure build was.
There's not a cut over between the two.
Right,
There was one at one
there
time.
used to be.
but-
Okay, so it's not like we removed it, it just disappeared.
It fell apart, I think.
Probably fell
Okay.
apart, yeah, pretty long.
I was just thinking about that for people visiting, they'll now have to like cut out and around.
Yeah.
Whatever, we only have a month. Month and a half.
Oh, we gotta let the kids build a ramp.
No,
We're allowed to get in
No.
trouble on that one.
Yeah.
Maybe we're.
Right.
Yeah. That's it.
Any other questions for the Arts Commission report? Thank you,
Great.
and I appreciate all the work that you guys put into the recent events, but also Arts Fest, and I'm looking forward to volunteering this year, and
Oh, good. I'll look for your name on the sign up sheet.
has that gone out yet? Is it?
Yeah, it's on the city website, I think, isn't it? The sign up volunteers? It-
For arts, for
Art
the
Fest?
painting it is.
Oh, for the painting.
I don't
Yeah, the
think
painting we're signed up for.
Right.
For Arts Fest.
She hasn't put that one
I
up
think
yet.
we're about to launch.
It's ready.
Sign me up, it's the same system. Sign me up.
Yeah, sign up
Art-
genius.
Yeah, sign me
Yeah,
up.
she just hasn't posted it yet.
All right, council, we're gonna move on to agenda item 4, which is council consideration of agenda items for approval on consent. Councilor Rosenberg.
Move to approve on consent agenda items number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Anybody want to remove one of those items? We'll remove we'll remove the item for, item 9. Well, no, we're just, because we're just gonna take it off. If you want, if there's a council member that wants to take it off, then it sounds like the applicant wants to speak to that item.
I'll take it off for the
Okay.
Those are the PTAs here. Are you okay with that one going on consent? Okay. Well, you came, so.
So, it'd be item number 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. Any other, members of council wish to pull an item? Is there a second for that motion? Second. Mayor Pro Tem second. All right, all those in favor of approving on consent, item number 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, we approved on consent the meetings from the March 7th, 2023 regular meeting. Number 6, appointing Cindy Walker as a regular member of the Planning Environmental Committee and acceptance of Corbin Graham's resolution for the Budget and Finance and Long-Term Financial Planning ad hoc committees. Number 7, approval of a temporary special use permit for the Sunset Valley Arts Commission for use of Tony Berger Center to host Arts Fest on April 29th, 2023. And number 8, approval of an auction of various salvage and surplus items in City Hall under section 37.04 of the city's code of ordinances. And that will be, the first time that we'll be doing this, it'll be a silent auction that's available via the web link that's in the backup, but we'll send a notice out to residents and.
It'll be posted on the website, contact.
Yeah, great. And number 10, approval of a request from the Sunset Valley PTA for a variance from section 150.726B and section 150.727A and C of the Land Development Code to allow additional ground signage to advertise the 2023 Cheetah Fest to be held at Sunset Valley Elementary on Saturday, April 22nd, 2023, and to allow a banner not attached to a building as well as a banner that is up for more than 30 days in consideration to waive all associated fees for council variance and sign approval. Thank you very much for coming and looking forward to Cheetah Fest, so a week before Arts Fest. A lot of
It's
activity.
time. Wow.
All right, council, that'll take us to our next agenda item, which is agenda number 9. Consider an act on granting a 100-day extension for the recording of the final plat of 4.966 acres out of Key Bristol Survey 18 Abstract 3, also known as 245 Brody Lane. And staff, do you want to give an introduction to this item?
Sure. So, basically in December, the project at 6405 Brody, had their final plat for approval, presented to council, preliminary plat has been approved as well as multiple other, zoning change and then, the variances, development variances. So the plat was considered for approval and it met all the standards of the plat. However, there was still the, financial securities needed for the water, for the utilities improvement, which is the water line construction. At that meeting, council gave a 90-day, basically, the plat was to be recorded within 90 days, and the applicant, in discussion with the applicant, seeking more time, specifically for both the purchase of the property and the bonding, the financial securities for the water line improvements. They're here. If you have any questions, they wrote a letter, which is a backup. So yeah, they're just asking for a 100-day extension, which would take it from today to June 30th. That's good.
Yeah, and go ahead and speak to that.
It's Tom Tribbiani, developer, botanical garden. So the reasons for the extension, the reasons we can't quite explain, we still don't have TCEQ approval, even though so I think the spring break kind of got in the way, so checked with our civil engineer today, and she's like, I don't understand, it's clean, there's not any issues at all. You know, we also need to get the city of Austin's approval on how we're going to do ingress and egress in the site. So we have those, and then this is our challenge. Today's economy, the interest rates and the water line extension, which we still don't have total approval from Austin Water, is a big sea change in cost. So we're trying to overcome all that. Gary McIntosh, the executive of the state, has given us until the end of June. And so the only reason I didn't, because 90 days, which was, I think, written, probably takes you to June 8th or something like that. So our request is for June 3rd. And so your consideration of that would be greatly appreciated. We don't mind sharing this water line extension is $417,000. Instead of the $120,000, but we thought we were going to be able to connect to the water line that's currently on the property.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that's just one of, and that's
So
hard. I mean, we just didn't figure that out. So we very much appreciate your consideration to extend it to the energy. And then wish us luck.
I move to extend to June 30th. And I figured, because we deal with it all, so, you know, contractors, it's tough to get a lot of stuff done.
Never experienced. It's just that we actually filed back in October.
That's so frustrating.
Thank you.
So motion to extend to June, 100 days to June 30th. Is there a second for that? Councilmember Young. Any further discussion from council? I think we're more than happy to extend it and, you know, hope you can overcome the challenges quickly, you know, and get to running your business.
Good luck.
Good luck.
All those in favor say aye.
Right.
All opposed say nay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good seeing you.
All right, council, that'll take us to agenda number 11. This is the continuation of our work session discussion. Consider act on authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for the implementation of the new ERP software by Tyler Technologies for financial management, human resources, and utility billing. And do we have the representative from Tyler Technologies on the line?
Yeah, I told her 6:30, so do we want to just take let's take a 5-minute break, that way we can come back to this item. Because I think the
I understand we can't get done in 5 minutes.
No.
Right, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break and then resume at 6:30 when we have the representative from Pilot Technologies here.
Was this person?
Cindy? She's a new, for
Oh.
public,
I'm sorry.
or planning environmental,
I didn't remember.
Oh, but that's who.
Cindy Walker.
Okay.
Yeah, Trish Murphy's niece, I think.
Oh, I'm totally not her, actually. I got a,
She did
I gotta
community
say-
garden. She was big in the community garden, still involved.
Okay. Very
yeah, so Charles is moving too?
Is he 5?
Yeah, he's fine.
I don't know. I didn't see any sales sign. I don't know.
Well, no,
Charles?
is moving too?
I didn't realize that.
That's 5. Hello.
Oh,
That's
I was wondering who 5 was.
That's Charles.
Charles,
I'm not sure.
haven't heard any.
To take with, that's truth for Danny. Sometimes is he moving or is he?
I'm not sure I understood that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds like he is. He says he's leaving, but he said that before.
I said that
But
before,
he's
yeah.
bought property, sounds like.
He
Right?
said he was ready to buy property.
Okay.
Oh.
Well,
We need to turn that off when we're not recording.
Hey, Carolyn,
Carolyn.
you recording?
I haven't seen one of those perfect.
Computer, how about that?
We got it.
All right. All right, council, we're gonna resume our discussion, and I believe we have our representative from Tyler Technologies here on the line. Correct?
Hi, Robin.
Good evening. How is everyone?
Well, can you hear us okay?
I can, yes.
All right, so we're gonna proceed with agenda number 11. So this is a discussion of the new ERP software and the continuation of the discussion we had at our work session. We do have a representative from Tyler Technologies on to discuss any answer any specific questions that council may have about code or the implementation or anything else about the ERP software. We've obviously heard from staff recommending that we move forward with this, beginning with the upgrade to the utility software. However, this is where we could get specific, answers back from Tyler Technologies as far as any questions the council has. So staff, anything else that you want to add before we open it up for possible questions at this time?
I don't think I have anything else to add, other than I think the recommendation is how it's presented now, or staff's recommendation is how it's presented now to proceed with what's quoted as the SaaS stuff, which is that will be done first. That's getting our current utility billing system in code 9, the desktop version, to the SaaS, to the cloud-based version, and then the bulk is adopting or implementation rather of the ERP software, which is financial management and human resources. With we can discuss it later, maybe when we're further down the line about possibly some of those other optional modules. But I would just recommend just going for the financial management, including the general ledger, the payroll. That would be my recommendation.
Okay. So council, what questions, if any, do you have at this time based on the supporting material or the backup provided by staff? All right, Councilor Young.
Oh, no, you go,
I guess my first question is, have you guys done migrations from MIP before into your software?
That is a question I will have to find out. We have a wonderful conversion team that converts multiple different vendors daily. I don't know specifically MIP, but I don't have a fear that they could not do that, but I can verify for sure.
I think it would be good to know if you have prior experience migrating MIP. What kind of challenges and other things kind of ran into just for our edification.
Okay.
I also have some questions kind of relating to like the underlying infrastructure and security. What cloud provider is your software running on?
It is in AWS.
Do you do automatic backups of your customers' data?
Yes.
Do you do it to more than one availability zone? In other words, are there multiple copies of the backups in different places?
We have, okay, you're asking me a lot of technical questions. So some of these I might have to defer to our technical services team, and I apologize for that. I did not have someone ready to be on the call for that. I'll write that down, multiple backups. I do know that there are with AWS, and then there's also a host reporting service that we can deliver that data to a secure site to you, that you can have that available to you.
Yeah, most of I just want to know that you do good backups and you have more than one copy of the backup.
Yes, we do.
On some basic questions on security, how do people access the system? Is it a login with a password?
Yes, to begin with, it would be with an icon in that it would be a secure username and password, and they would log in that way. And then we would have it then truly browser based. But it's all going to be with the username and password. that's encrypted.
Do you have anything that measures password strength? When people enter their passwords? Or when they create their passwords?
I don't know. I will find that out.
Okay. And finally, do you support multi-factor authentication?
Okay. That's another I will confirm.
Okay, yeah, and then whether or not it's optional or required.
Okay.
I apologize for the questions, but I'm responsible for the security for my company, so these things are top of mind for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would be happy to definitely set up a call directly with our technical services team if you would like that as well.
If you can just get those answers to our staff, that would be fine.
Okay. I can do that.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Sure. Hello. Since this is kind of related to what Chip was saying, do you do SSO? So like, you know, if you can like log in with Microsoft or anything like that, or you just have your own user accounts?
She's right.
She's right.
Should write it down. Yeah. you
Yes,
can
I'm
find that
writing
out.
it down.
If there's SSO, then we could just require that everyone go through Microsoft Visual, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then this one's more on like the public side. They do have a 311 tool.
Mhm.
It's like asset and something management.
We
Asset
have-
311 man. Go ahead.
Mhm. We have it's My Civic. It is a citizen engagement app, and it also, you can have the 311 for your citizens to request service. And then also it comes with the staff app as well. So it's basically City Hall in the palm of your hand. And we do have that available as well.
Cool. I didn't see that in the quote. I'm dying to have 311 back.
And
I did list it as an option there.
that's an option.
Oh, okay, so I'm looking at it right now and
It's in the optional, in the updated quote.
what's it?
It's called My Cities.
It's my selection.
Okay. Because it's
It's right.
what
do have
what they
another-
call on their website must be different.
That's what I'm assuming it was.
We do have PubWorks, that's just that, which Public Works is using, that the 311 part just hasn't.
We haven't, it would be $1,000 for us and the 311 off of works.
Publix is different from this.
Mhm.
Okay. So never mind.
Service request part. I think that's what it's-
Okay, and that's all that does?
That'd be a question for Rob.
So it's optional. What are your thoughts on us using that? Is there anything in there that you want?
I haven't really looked at the My Civic now or whatever it is on there. But I know we use PubWorks for our system, so we could just add it onto that too.
Yeah, I want somewhere to.
Yeah.
To kind of like. Complain and see my complaints.
We might have to like bring both options back.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Any other questions?
One more.
That's very good.
Do you have a reporting module as part of the standard system, or is that something you need to get Data Insights module for?
Like financial reporting.
Yes.
Could you hear me, Rob?
No, I could not.
As, just try to speak up a little bit, or.
Sure. No, my question is there a reporting module as part of the standard financial software? Or do we need the data and insights powered by Socrata to have a reporting solution?
For if you wanted outside reporting, yes, you would need the Socrata to be compatible with the the Tyler products for the data and insights. We do have the host reporting service that you would be able to upload into the current system that you have. But as a Tyler product for the citizen transparency and reporting service, that data and insights would be our suggestion.
But that would be for external reporting, not for our own,
Right.
for our own internal reporting. Okay, that was the question I
Correct.
was.
Okay, yes. So the financial software has its own reporting, ad hoc reporting tool, and it has multiple levels of reporting built into the system itself.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
My concern is the cost of the migration, your estimates.
Mhm.
I understand these are estimates, and what are they based on, and are they fairly close, or what? Is this gonna go, is this number gonna get way out of control all of a sudden?
So the migration estimate is a fixed fee. And so what you see there is what would be to move from the Pro 9 to the Pro 10 on the utility side. So and the way that that works is once you're given a date for schedule, then we bill 50% of that. And then after go live is the remaining of that number.
Robin, I think Councilor Reese is specifically talking about the data migration for the financial system.
Yeah.
Oh,
not
I'm
utility.
sorry.
Yeah, the current estimate, I think there's some professional services that are estimated with, you know, a certain amount of hours. I think just to restate it, the concern is that that might grow, or what is that estimate based on? Or you know, can you give us a little more background about what that estimate, you know, includes?
Mhm. So typically that has been for the size of the city. The hours are based on that and what other cities your size have gone through. So the services are billed as actual that's incurred. So if you don't use all those hours, of course, you're not going to be billed for them. But if you need to have additional training or have additional services, then we will do a change order, and you will be aware of that prior to the services are rendered.
Well, it seems to me that we would need to know the answer to Councilmember Young's question of, do y'all have familiarity with MIP? And if that's the case, then there might be a more accurate number. So, accurate
Just-
estimate.
I've never heard of any other city ever using MIP. So, I mean, yeah, so again,
Concerning
yeah,
that.
it's more of a nonprofit software. So I don't think you're gonna find, I mean, this is my guess, is they're not gonna have done an MIP migration.
And what we could do is if we can get a sample file of, you know, a file from MIP that I can deliver to our conversion team, then we could get a closer number for that conversion.
I think that would be very helpful.
Okay, we can definitely do that.
That's great. Thank you.
So this migration estimate, where are they usually coming from? Like what software platform are you usually migrating them from?
That's typically what a standard data conversion from financial software, personnel management software, that's been the norm of data conversion. And the hours are based on that as a whole.
But no specific, it's,
Right.
I'm low confidence in that estimate if they've never done one from MIT before. We're not saying that you haven't, but it's like if there's
Right.
there's a low chance that many cities move over from it, and that,
Nobody uses it.
Oh,
I mean, we're already at, we're almost at a point where it's like another, we could just staff the position. You know, just be like, who these numbers were. At that cost, so, okay.
yeah, is there a way that our staff could help with that migration also?
I think there is need of the staff to assist in that. I can find out exactly their role in that migration or that conversion. That's not a problem. I will definitely find out on that.
Thank you.
Council, further questions for Representative? We also have a couple members of the public that wish to make comments as well. All right, so at this time, we're going to open it up for members of the public that wish to speak to this agenda item. And you could just step up to the podium and state your name and address and get your comments.
26 weeks, former member of budget. I'm concerned, my concerns are like Councilmember Leeds. I'm concerned that we acquire yet another piece of software with not cap expenses. And then you're committed and then your expenses go up. So I have, and also I'm concerned about only having 2 years in this deal at 50K, and what we really want is 5 years. So the delta in being able to have that thing historical, every time we budget, we have out 5 years. And that's how we make our budgeting system work. And so I want to make sure that we have access to all 5 years like we have had in the past. I think it's really important to our budgeting process in this city. So that causes me concern. So I would like to know whether if in any other cities, existing staff is able to add in that extra 3 years that we're talking about, and what the sense of time it would be for staff to do that, if so. I want to know if we were to buy this software and we get the more accurate estimate, if we can have a hard cap on that so that it doesn't exceed that amount, which I have seen other software people do. They know this is what it will cost you. And I think that's a reasonable thing to expect. And I would like to know if any other city, if this has been reasonable enough with education, that any other city has actually converted the transition. Not that we should, but merely that we could, because I think that's an important thing. If it's usable enough for our staff to complete it, if we find ourselves in a place where, no, we really want more, but I don't want to have the expensive people come in to do it if we really. I want to know whether we have in our skill set that we could actually do. So those are my questions, but they are really just an extension of what Councilmember Reese said. It's all along that line, just taking it a little bit further. Thank you so much.
Right. So we could certainly, whatever direction we provide tonight, we can put conditions on it, as far as bringing back, any contract for further review to council. We could proceed with just the upgrade to our utility software and then, begin the process of evaluating and working with Tyler Technologies on what the cost would be to get a better estimate. That might be an appropriate next step as well. So I think there's lots of ways that we could shape this to move forward on this. Certainly I think if we begin with a known, upgrade, which would at least prepare us for, integration with other cloud modules, right? And that's a necessary step if we're going to do this. But it also gives us all the current desktop version into a cloud-based, software tool, which has benefits, right? You can talk about the security benefits. You can talk about the fact that we don't have to maintain that software on our end. It's maintained, by the vendor. There's a backup and redundancy. But I think there's different ways we can proceed here. But I think getting more information from Tyler would be useful and bringing it back to council before we proceed with the major financial migration to the residents. Comments about, can we do more than just the 2 years? Is that something we want to build into the contract, or would you want to augment with staff time? We have some other cities that they've done conversions of our software for, that we can bring back, for refinement of that estimate. I would like us to proceed with at least that initial upgrade and, the authorization to begin the discussions with Tyler, to get a better estimate for the rest of the software. And I'd be happy with that. Councilor Madigan.
Go ahead.
Well, I'll make a motion that we start with moving over to the updated cloud-based process. That's the utility software. And then I'd like us to have the folks from Tyler actually look at our data that we are thinking about converting onto the other modules and giving us an estimate based on what they're seeing after they look at what we have. Can we do that?
Yeah, it's probably. That's possible.
Yeah.
So Robin, is it possible for someone from your conversion team to actually look at the data for the other modules? Since it's apparently a nonprofit software that we're using that other cities may not have used, and you may not have experience with those conversions, to actually look at what we're talking about with our data and give us an estimate based on that after you've seen what it is.
Absolutely, we can, yes.
That would be great.
Then that's what I move.
Friendly amendments.
Yeah.
Also have Robin or anyone from Tyler provide answers to our other questions to staff.
Yes.
We've asked during this.
As well, so. Yeah. So the questions and like, does a lot of it's centered around security, so is multi-factor authentication required? Or
SSO.
Or SSO, which would be connected with Microsoft, which then would require. And then is there multiple backups,
Mhm.
right, of the data? That's basically on the cloud, right? Is there
Right.
multiple backups?
Okay,
Password strength testing.
in passwords?
And also, when your team comes in and looks at our data, we could look at some other things about the 5 years of our data rather than 2 years. And
okay,
then also the possibility of capping the expenses for the conversion.
okay.
Work?
That's where you are.
Second.
Further discussion on this? All those in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. We approved that the motion. Thank you, Robin, for joining us. Looking forward to working with you on the better or refined estimates, but also on the utility software upgrade, which we did approve tonight for that to proceed there. So, appreciate that.
You're more than welcome, and thank you for allowing me to come, and I will get started on getting your questions answered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Our council, we are moving to our last agenda item before we move into executive session, which is presentation, discussion, and possible action on city-owned properties 6107 and 6401 Brody Lane. This is broken out into multiple parts because they're specific, conditions for the separate properties, as well as the staff recommendation is really limited to just 6107, but we wanted to make sure that council is informed about the conditions about 6401. So with that, I'll turn it over to staff for introduction to this item, and then we can open up for council questions and discussion.
So the two city-owned properties along Brody Lane, 6107, which is the most recent purchase, and then 401, which was the Ann Galt Life Estate, and now that this Galt has passed on, that is officially, this city property. So two city properties, both zoned single family, both have residences, fairly old residences. That's why the survey found that both structures have asbestos. 6107, at the last council meeting, council adopted a resolution which to initiate zoning change. So 6107, the plan for that property is to change from single family to parkland. And money was set aside. It was actually at the 11th hour of the budget process, and the now called Parking Lot. $100,000 was set aside to, for the demolition of the house on 107 Road. So before any demolition could occur, asbestos abatement has to be performed on the structure. And even before that, when staff was just walking the property, Carolyn was fairly sure that she was walking across the sinkhole. So we actually had a geological survey done, and indeed there is a sinkhole on the property. And I believe that was, well, I think I linked the report, but there was just the main survey in the backup, which we could pull up. Pretty large sinkhole. So basically before demolition of the house, which was council's plan, we have to do asbestos abatement. Dakota did receive a quote. Since we were surveying the house at 6107, we thought we might as well survey the house at 6401 Brody, because there's been several ideas thrown around about what can be done at that house. Could it be used? Basically, could the house be used? And at this time, I think the staff's recommendation is really to, again, move forward. Since we are moving forward with the zoning change in 6107, is to go ahead and approve the asbestos abatement so that house could be demoed. And our recommendation now, for 6401, since there's really no concrete plans for that property yet, is just to let the house remain as is for now. Anything else, Carolyn, Dakota, you want to add?
No, I guess we could add that for 6401, there's asbestos there, so if anything moves forward, that it would be to have to mitigate all of asbestos, which is in the drywall building, which we basically getting the building. That's why we're not recommending moving forward with anything on that property at this time until we know what we're going to do with it, because we don't want to gut it, building sitting around.
And if it was to be used for, like, let's say, an idea was if the nonprofit could use it, it would have to come up to commercial code, right? It couldn't even just be residential code. So commercial code is a higher standard. The building basically has to be gutted, right, to treat the asbestos and then to get it to commercial code. It would be cheaper just to demo other things, start over. So yeah, any comments, questions?
I have a question, the sinkhole. So I know we have talked about possibly having parking here for trailhead parking. Does the sinkhole, is that any concerns with the sinkhole because of that?
Well, of course, there are concerns with that, but the sinkhole has 150-foot setback to it, so basically that would incorporate, and I think if you read the report, it talks about they have these little draw areas that kind of head toward the sinkhole.
Yeah.
It basically incorporates that whole area. I mean, it basically is like 150-foot circle.
About like that.
So it will cover that middle section of there. So there is still a possibility for something up in this area, I believe, but parking would be
Right there on the front?
taking it back also for that 150 foot. So there's nothing that can be done over right here. Unless
Okay,
you come around. Okay, so.
okay.
But yeah, it's a fairly significant feature. And 150 feet is the standard term of the valley for
For a sinkhole, okay.
Critical environmental features and stuff.
I can look this up. I kind of am. What's a karst feature?
First, well, it's part of the type of rock we have around here. It's the Swiss cheese limestone that we have is considered to be karstic limestone, basically.
So I shouldn't, the fact that they're both in yellow doesn't really. Like the little yellow karst feature and sinkhole being in yellow. It's not like it's 150 feet back from the VR3 there.
No, it's 150 feet from the or different little environmental things here. I can probably kind of give you an idea of what those are.
How much is this geosurvey?
Survey cost.
75?
Yeah.
75?
Use surveys are expensive.
It starts at 70. I'm like, dollars?
No. It's expensive.
Yeah.
I think one for, yeah, the Creek was even more than that, so yeah.
Do we? Where does that money get pulled from? Are we putting that in the 100 or?
It probably, it was gonna
Yeah.
start off right now. They said this one was, it's a solution happening, but this one doesn't have the same setback. Not quite the same, so.
On the survey picture, when they have that overlay, along the property line with the current, the Sunset Valley nature area. That is like, that's kind of where I imagine the a parking area would be, because you wouldn't have to remove any trees, it's just like, it's a,
So you're talking about the open side of it?
yeah, it's on like the north side of it.
So where,
Hold on.
can you, yeah.
Look at the
Gotta
map.
repopulate stuff, sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, it looks like there's trees, but it's just like a very large canopy, but
Are you
like,
talking about you?
That's where the parking would have to be, right?
Yeah, you gotta be careful where exactly where. it is.
it looks like trees here, this is a fairly big lawn over here.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
So that's where I kind of imagine this and this. When the house is gone. Pickleball. So if we demo the whole thing, what is left? They don't break up the foundation. Correct?
No, we would probably take the, well, it was. it would
Yeah, you
probably take the
choose to leave
foundation.
it or take it out.
Okay.
It's pretty tall.
It's very, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's
It's
all.
not safe for. Well,
Yeah.
wow.
That's where resin guards.
That's what I was gonna ask also, with the demolition, does that include the concrete and then the sewer and the water lines? What happens with them?
There's
Are they-
on well, so we can either leave
At
the
the
well
well.
or pack the well. And then it's on septic, so we have to get this.
Okay. And then if we did in the future decide on putting any spots for parking, and it's in the critical water quality zone, wouldn't we have to mitigate and do a water retention pond?
Yeah, you're gonna have to mitigate for it.
Yep.
Sounds pricey.
It is.
So that little tiny little section though, that you pointed out is under the canopy
Okay,
up there
yeah.
could be some parking. That you wouldn't have to mitigate, correct?
No, you're still.
You
gonna
still have
have
to-
to
Everything
mitigate.
has to
mitigate.
mitigate.
It's
It's
all
all,
part on it.
it's all in there, okay. Oh, man.
All those lines are the
There's
critical
only
water.
a
right?
strip. The very back,
And you still have to get around it.
yeah,
He's done to try to through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to get around it.
Wow.
I-
Good idea.
Well, I just,
Shouldn't be.
everyone,
Yeah.
nobody, I mean, it's public roads, but everyone kind of has an issue with people parking on the streets. And we're constantly telling them to park here, which is so far away from the, and I kind of see that as
Yeah.
a spot.
And there's different ways we could do parking that might, obviously there's.
It might be a
the
different
asphalt
spot.
necessarily could be alternatives. As a road term.
So if demolition was done on both properties, 6107 and 6405 at the same time, would they be, have you asked this? Would there be a price discount?
Well, generally, if you're gonna combine, yeah, it's gonna be cheaper because there's one mobilization. So there would be, there would be a price savings from doing two projects, two locations at one time versus remobilizing the second time.
Right.
So,
That's a- Smart way.
Sorry, I think it's, you can speak to.
Yeah, two questions. So one, to follow up on what Councilman Rosengard just said, would that also apply to the mitigation for, or the asbestos? So they're two different companies, right?
$2,000 in price. To do asbestos mitigation at 64, one's like 15.
Yeah, one's 17,000 and one's like $15,000. There was a company that, this is only one quote, I haven't gone. I just wanted to give like a general idea of how much it's gonna cost to remove the asbestos, so it's. The demolition could potentially be a part of the asbestos abatement process too. I can ask the contractor if they can give us a price for the asbestos abatement along with the demo. That could be a little bit of cost savings as well.
Okay.
Also, concrete can be sold to TDS and they grind it up and use it again.
Yeah, you should crush it and recycle it.
Yeah.
So the second part of my question was, what do we do with the sinkhole? And is that exciting? Because isn't that like feeding
The aquifer.
That's what
Yeah.
we're getting
Yes.
at.
the aquifer?
It's a
Absolutely.
great Educational opportunity, and it's got a really nice bold quality to it. So I think it'd be something that would be great for an education kind of thing right in that area. Because it's one that's, especially once the property is, everything's kind of taken care of and opened up, I think. You would have a lot of good education.
Those 3 yellow dots are karst, right?
Yeah, they're
So you have the karst and that would be really,
Well, and if you go out on that property, the entire property, this entire area on here, I mean, it is like a karst minefield. There is rock all over the surface that's coming up. I mean, it's like just looking at it, it's like it's a karst playground.
Yeah, there's a little path, there's parking lot and a little path along that, northern side of the property. Displays
so
aquifer and
that's,
karst education.
Yeah.
And then you connect onto the.
that's something we should really
That'd be great.
preserve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. Sure.
Yeah, especially, I mean, if people aren't familiar with what that looks like, this is a great kind of educational spot to really educate people about what it is they see. Because they probably see this all over this area, so.
Interesting.
Any other questions before I open it up for members of the public? Mayor Pro Tem?
So I,
This is Chris and I toured the,
Or one.
And
Yeah. Toward that with her children, like 4 of her children, and I know the city owns it, and that's kind of the deal, but I do remember when Sylvia originally was just like, oh, we're gonna demolish it, and it kind of like, oh, wow, okay. It is ours, but like, I kind of want them to be involved before we just, like, they find out that it's just gone. I know, but I grew up in one house, and if I found out one day that was gone, I would, and of course, it's gonna take forever for this actually, get scheduled and done, but, I don't know, is it really? And we said,
This house is in so much better shape than the old house.
it is such a bummer that house is not in the other location. But, it's like all,
we still have to mitigate. for-
oh, no, absolutely.
but,
There's just a part of my brain that says that we don't need the money now. I don't want to either sell it or prevent us from being able to sell the 6401 in the future, but in the meantime, just kind of getting it off of our ledger. If you get someone in there just to be performing upkeep, that's what I see in my mind. Just, we have it there. It's not costing us any money. Just chilling, so go ahead.
Actually, it does cost us money. When a house is sitting vacant,
Yeah.
there's greater opportunity for things to then go bad. And so, and with it being discovered that there is asbestos there, my opinion, it would be better to get rid of both houses at the same time.
Yeah, well, that's what my thinking with, a partnership with a third, with a nonprofit or something in the Gulf. There's someone there and, the heat is on and there's people to point out, and I should.
Can we even we wouldn't even be able to put anybody in there knowing there's asbestos.
Oh, no, this is after,
Right.
like. mitigation.
Oh, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
okay.
although I've been in there.
I'd like to. We have no plan for what we want to do with that property, 6401. I think we should have a plan first and then decide.
Are you saying even the asbestos?
Well, we know it's.
Well,
not
you-
asbestos. We know we have to.
Yeah.
You said don't bust open those walls.
Well,
Well,
We don't.
Yeah,
realize
I
the
wouldn't
walls
open.
if we're not- If we don't have a plan for what we're going to do with it, we would prefer to move forward with 6107, demolish and do the asbestos abatement and hold off and not do the asbestos abatement on 6401 until we're going to be having a plan.
I'm in favor. We ought to know what we're going to do before we start doing something.
Yeah, so in order to get this up to commercial grade, what does that entail?
So we have to get the inspector out there, so I have to get power up there too, so we get water from the well to it, and so we have the electrical and heat and stuff. I do know there's 2 chrome outlets in the house, which means there's aluminum wire, so the whole house would have to be rewired for 3 chrome outlets. And then we have to do ADA upgrades to the windows and doorways and have ramps and stuff to get in and out, because it is a little bit elevated. So we have to have multiple different things to go on, and potentially some sort of fire alarm system, due to the fact that it's commercial, not residential.
And what was the cost for just getting the electrical back up?
$1,100, and that's a temporary electrical service ran off of our generator to just power it up to be like, what's wrong with the building?
So even if the city decided on 6401 as a pickleball court or a parking lot or a future garden to table restaurant, even with all those, we still have to demolish the house because it's not worth it to try and convert it to a commercial property. For the money you spend on trying to convert it to commercial property, you could have already demolished and built a new one. So that's why my vote is on both at the same time, save some money, save the city money, and move on. You can still decide what you're gonna do with the property later.
Yeah, we don't have to do anything with the property.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes that's the best decision. But
Yeah.
that way, that part is done, and we don't have to worry about maintenance on that house. We don't have to worry about somebody getting in that house. There's asbestos in there. That's an issue. That's my thought.
What would be the difference between getting it up to code versus building a new building? Well, no, like double.
Yeah, I mean, you could get you could do like a barndominium style for like $70,000. You know, you could spend $50,000 in upgrades, and then plus not only that, the upkeep for the years from here on out. That public works would have to go out there, and fix different problems that go on. It is so cold, and it's just gonna be money that's depleting every year.
I just, I drive around and there's like so many times that also buildings are torn down. They're just like, that is technically a building that we built and it's like, it has 0 character and there's like no love for it. And it's like, okay, I guess you can put people in it. But it's just, I go through this with, we have a property up in Pennsylvania and there's a house from the 1600s on it. And it would be $1 million to make it worth a darn, but like, what do you lose if you just tear it down, just push it into the basement there? And so I struggle with this all the time, and then here's another property I struggle
And then I think that's where Rosenberg also wanted to see.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of in the same mindset of, if it's full of asbestos and it's got aluminum wiring and we'd have to like completely gut it and we'd be left with rebuilding it from the frame. It seems to me that would be a lot more expensive than us getting the both of them taken down, so we don't have a building standing there with asbestos that's empty and people being able to get into it, break into it, whatever. If we can save money by doing them both at the same time, then we have a clean piece of property. Whatever we decide to do in the future, then we can build something else or whatever we're gonna do, but at least we don't have a liability sitting there. That's the way I look at it.
That's where Rosenberg.
Plus, with it being so old, I went through this. If it was built in what year estimate? At least 1970 or younger, cast iron lines underneath are probably
Oh,
all
yeah.
shot. And so then you have to go and redo all the lines.
Yeah.
And I've gone through that, so I know what that expense was.
Staff
Yeah.
would probably.
Oh, there you go.
Just what we
Some
need.
additional research, get
Yeah.
some additional quotes, but yeah, there might be a benefit to doing both at the same time. However, I don't know if the 100,000 plus the 95,000 would be enough. So staff can go back, we can do some additional research, maybe get some more quotes, see. But the guests are,
Sometimes you just say, this is what we have in the budget, and
that's what we,
Yeah. Here's our budget, make it happen. Right. We'll give you both for the price.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what we got.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go open up for public comments this time.
Yes. Thank you, Tom, Bessie, 795 Oakdale. That's how it counts. My questions are, regarding the properties. And some of the things you discussed, but other things as well. And you're making all these plans to do these things, this houses, and by the way, the golf house. If it's got outline wiring and all that, I'm totally not interested in the golf property, so my comments are gonna be more reflected for the 6107. Has planning and environmental or CPD had a chance to go over there and look at that property? Has anybody ever provided committees to go look at it? Has CPD, who's the community and environment and what they are, economic development, have they looked at it? I mean, to me, that site is a real opportunity because you're gonna have to, whether you demolish it or not, you still have to do the asbestos abatement. So that's a done deal. That has to be done. So what if you use that house? And also, isn't it here in Newton? We're talking about concrete. I thought it was up here in Newton. Which is house? The 607.
You want to hear?
One, right?
Yeah.
You walked up the steps, there's a little porch.
You do walk up the steps and there's a little porch, but there's also like concrete block and stuff all the way around it, and then there's some portions that, you know, are concrete in the back, so it's really, it does have a crawl space underneath it, so it could be pier and beam. But
Yeah, so
there are
we're here the pure being with the concrete
portions of
blocks.
it,
Yeah, okay. See, first thing, you don't have the concrete, that you could have really sell. But several of us have talked about using that structure, and we could have, if it's not in really bad shape, you could have, different, you could have a cleaning day for that. Like we get the residents to come together and do cleanups and whatnot. You could have us come in. Let us work with it. When we get the structurally sound, we could paint it, we could do all those things. So you could put a fence around, a security fence around it, and then have the key up here, and then if the group wanted to use it, because often we can't use these spaces here. If the group wanted to use it, a ladies' sewing society, I don't know. Then we would reserve it, go here, get the key, go in, use the facility, and then lock it back up, and take the key back to y'all. It's giving, that's a community space right there. And for some of you to get to it might be a little hard, but for the Meadows and for us, just walk down the street, you're there. So there's an opportunity there, I think, to have someplace that we've been wanting for a very long time, which is community space. So that's one thing I'd like to have CPD look at, and perhaps planning or whoever else, which might be interested in that, and look at it with that into it. Yeah, so that's that one, and then and this part goes into you're making all these decisions based upon staff input, and you haven't talked to any resident that I'm aware of about what would you like to do with it.
We did have the Parks and Open Space Plan get input for this side. One of the, inputs was making an accessible trail, the park, right, making it a park, is one of our conditions zoning change.
That's different, but I was talking about earlier. I'm just very good about it.
So there has been some community input for this specific property. It is in the floodway. It's a property that has carries risk for the city just based on our ownership of it in the state. And so, it's up to council to decide, what we're moving forward with this, but I do not think that the city should carry this liability for the property as it is. And that being said, it's something that council could consider alternative uses for it. But there has been some public input based on the park space planning process.
Right, in the general overall, and now that's specifically just when people say, there's like this one. And what do you think, what are the opportunities here? So I'd like to see that happen. Before you make these kinds of decisions, really, yeah.
Are you aware that we are working on a community center within City Hall?
No, I'm not, but I also know what a wonderful space that is, and it's out in the woods, and it's on yours and my side of town. So, yes, but no, I did not think that.
Okay.
The water wells, I don't know what shape the water wells are in, but when we acquired the track across Brody, which is now the Country White Track? Yeah, the Country White Track, but yeah. Do you remember the Greenfield when we did that? Okay, there's a well there, and we had to plug the well. Yeah, we capped it. And because we had to, the water don't border to be able to tear the steel, I'm not sure what. Right now, if we wanted to go in and create one of those prairies that Burns talks about, or rewild that area over there, that well would have been a water source. It would have been a water source for emergencies. And yet we don't have it. It wouldn't have to be potable water, just water for those kinds of things. So I'd like to consider the two wells. Don't plug them. Just go ahead and keep them, and I don't know if you have to even go through time to do that information. But keep the wells, because you never know when you might want to use that water for something. It could be, I have a question too. Is there a city water to storm center? Do they have, or are they always on well?
No, and they do not have water.
Okay.
And
Or sewer.
or sewer.
Okay, so in that case, I would suggest very strongly that you keep that water well in the golf property, city water. No? Okay.
No.
So again, I think it was cheer to go in and plug wells that you might actually use later. And agree.
On Barton Springs, Edwards Aquifer Conservation District, anytime we keep a well, we have to get a permit and we have to do tests every year.
That's not an issue.
Okay.
I mean, they used to come test my well all the time. I never paid a penny. I don't think you have to pay to have a well test. And nobody, I mean, maybe that's a secret. Nobody comes test my well now. We did for years. Nobody comes to.
I would read a lot about anybody who has a well, you have to have them tested on a yearly basis.
I don't think about that. I will call them and ask them.
Please, yep.
Okay.
Do you have to keep electricity?
I'm sorry.
Well, like a well, requires so you
Yeah,
have to
well,
keep electricity going there,
Electricity running.
you know?
So anyway, if you could consider that, just to hold off on that. And please hold off, just, I mean, for a couple of months. Everything moves so slowly anyway. I'm still rushing doing this, at least demolishing the house in 6 months. At least just let some of us look at it, see if there's some purpose that could be made of it. I know a lot about construction. I could walk in there and probably tell you whether it's for you can build it or not. And then this beautiful. And then the last thing is in the geologic assessment. Chairman, I did go to the sinkhole and I can feel the air flow, which is really exciting. But I remember when I talked about how it maybe might be fun to have an educational experience and maybe dig out the sinkholes. Yeah, you could open it up. Well, I've been looking at the literature. Cavers want to open up sinkholes because they want to dig in them and they want to get as far as they can in. Right. But if you look at the cave environmentalists, some of the things that are not good about opening up caves is that if you open it up, you're changing the airflow going in and out. So if there's some dampness in the cave, and typically cave crickets live, I don't know, let's say from 0 to 100 feet back in the cave.
they're there because the environment is just right for them. And if you open up something, you change the humidity, it gets drier, it's hotter because the heat, changes the airflow, you're gonna change their homes and they won't be able to live there. It's not just crickets, there are the spiders and salamanders on the front streets, but that also live in places like that. So I would caution you about doing that. You can have there's enough flow coming out of it that you can experience flow, but please don't open it up. For others there. Thank you.
What's the balance of the converted at least three residential to commercial properties? And I don't at all freak out. I don't think we should freak out because it's that's a property. Especially if you're not doing anything. The house I live in now has asbestos all over the outside of it. If you don't do anything to it, it's not a problem. Most people just go over it. And as long as you don't do anything, it's fine. But when you have problems with asbestos, is when you mess it.
Yeah, when you
That's it.
disturb it.
As long as you don't disturb it, there's all the old floors, they're all asbestos, just don't mess with it. So I don't have any freak out about doing that. I also think that we don't have a plan yet. We don't know what kind of public-private partnerships we might do. I agree that we shouldn't leave a building empty. That's a really bad idea. You know, we can see what happens when we left a building. You know, you need eyes on property. So I agree, but I think that Helen's idea has some merit is to see who we might partnership with. I think there's some interest to me about how cool that area would be if someone environmental was in it and that we had an educational component there, where people would come in and learn all about that. They could walk in, it could be literally a museum about crush features. And just like when you go to Wild Basin, they have a building. And I'm not nearly as confident as Dakota is on the costs of building costs. Whenever I've done anything during this pandemic, all my costs are skyrocketing high as to actually build a new thing. So I'm not as comfortable, and then it looks like, you know, a storage unit from, you know, the figures of what you're doing are not an interesting thing. It's a barn, you know, it's not an interesting feature. There is some interest to these buildings that I don't think you can get back easily. So I just think that it's worth ruminating a little bit about, at least to me, at least the Van Gogh property, because I don't think we can do anything about that now. But maybe to just see what kind of partnerships we might get on those properties, and those people will redo it. I mean, you can make it a deal, like if I'm gonna get rent, I read all the buildings. You know, my landlord didn't read the building, I read the buildings. And then, I mean, even when I bought it, those are things that are common as a landlord, that your people redo the building. So I'm just putting some of those ideas out there because I don't see as much an entrepreneurial audience in this room. So I'm gonna say that that's my experience, that I've done at least 3 times. And there's been asbestos abatement in some, and not asbestos abatement in others because I didn't touch it. So, yes, you can do the electrical, but that's not necessarily, it's not as big a deal that people are saying to redo it. I'm speaking from rebuilding experience.
One question I have a number of thoughts. One question is the septic systems, how old are they?
Systems were built, I mean, the houses were built in 1953.
So we wonder how reliable they are. I would too.
And there's also 6107, there is no sewer line.
So where is that sewer going?
I mean, it's a septic.
It's a septic,
It
there's
doesn't
no-
have, so there's no, like, there is a 6401, there is a sewer line that runs back behind this property.
Okay.
So that if we needed to connect to the sewer line, we would get there. That is not the case in 6107.
So I do think, I love that. Your idea is very intriguing to me. I mean, I think it's very intriguing. The part of me that says, oh my gosh, it's because the liability from a city. we are a city with deep pockets, and that's a hard obstacle to overcome. We would have to bring it up to code before I could ever feel comfortable doing that, and that's a lot of money. And it's intriguing. And I'm just not sure, based on the septic system, based on the electrical, you're basically rebuilding it. And I would struggle with that. So I have to say.
Carissa?
Postpone it while people think about it. And find the answers.
Councilor Reddick?
I agree. One of the reasons we were talking about demolishing 6107 Brody is it's in the critical water quality zone. It would then allow us to mitigate for other areas that have filled. Also, all the costs of getting it to where we would feel safe with someone being in it. It's different. What I've learned, being on council and working with staff and so on, it is so different compared to when it's you doing it versus when it's government doing it. When government owns property, there's a whole lot more rules that they have to abide by before, rather than what we do in our private properties and so on. So that's my concerns. And yes, we can stall a little longer, but hopefully, when we went and walked the property, it already was stinking really bad. And Public Works had to go and put some stuff down the drains and so on. And the other issue, the septic, having septic on the property. If those septic tanks start to leak, we're actually doing harm to the Edwards Aquifer than doing good. So the sooner we get that septic tank out of there and emptied, the better. The mayor.
Maybe I agree with you. And you didn't have much use to for a long time ago, but I didn't go there. I think the septic, I would definitely go get rid of the septic tanks. It's not a very difficult thing, at least it wasn't when I did it, satisfy the county. It's just crushing the lid and filling it in. You didn't have to dig it out or anything kind of thing. Yeah, and so I don't think that would be difficult. And yes, I definitely would say get rid of the septic because of how close it is to the creek. And I realize it's in a critical water quality, so the fact that it's already there, the house, that it's still be such, I think it just be this incredible benefit. We always wanted to have a signature look to the city. We wanted to have, when we first started doing things, and then we had our first developer, and of course they just steamrolled over us, they wanted. And so we never got the signature we wanted. But having an old structure, and if somebody could just come in and give an idea of what it would take, it doesn't cost anything to get that. And again, I'm just asking to postpone it a little while to just gather more information. Maybe I'm a camper and a hiker, and I'm perfectly happy with a porta potty, but not a porta potty, but you could get those compost toilets that will have to give everybody running water and showers and ice in the house. You don't need any of that. Oh, good. So anyway, I'm just asking if we postpone it a while, and maybe anyone who is interested on the council, maybe 6 for a little bit longer.
I just have a couple questions for staff. So I thought there was a requirement that if a property changed hands and it was on septic, you had to hook up to the sewer.
Yeah.
So this property has changed hands. Are we under that same requirement?
We should be connecting to sewer. We do not have a sewer. 107.
However, we're also planning changes in use, right? So,
It wouldn't be
and,
good.
yeah. would-
But if we kept the building, we'd be required to have bathrooms. wouldn't we?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
so that would involve.
putting a sewer line in
which
to
is-
connect it to a sewer line,
Yes.
unless you put in composting toilets or something like that in the state park. We do that? Like,
Yeah, we could have, I mean, if
We've
we
never done that before.
Yes.
but-
have a composting toilet on that side, if we wanted public restrooms in that part.
I think there might be a composting toilet at like Long Basin. I'm sure about that. No.
And I know they're looking at a possibility of that kind of option for the Violet Crown Trail here, so. As a possibility of kind of composting toilet, but it would be a bathroom, not a toilet inside the building. It would be.
it'd have to be
bathroom.
inside a bath, like
It
the
would be a
state parks do.
bathroom, but- Yeah, but it would be like a building, a facility type.
Yeah, just like the campgrounds where you have a
It's a bathroom.
little building that there's men and women and.
Yeah.
They had the now, but they just burn it up, so it doesn't. aspirate water.
Council, we could, a couple different ways we could proceed, I think there's been some discussion about getting an estimate that might include more details and possibly, or if not wish, getting estimates about what it would take to refurbish either property, but also estimates for what it would actually take to demolish and maybe asbestos from one single company, so we can get a better idea of the budget. Doing that in conjunction with both houses, both the rehabilitation, but also the estimate for demolishing. Both houses, seeing if there's a cost savings there and bringing this back, as a future agenda item, and that might allow time for additional community input as well. That's a possibility, but if there's also a strong desire for the council to move forward with this, there is certainly the asbestos quote is something we perceive as just based on what we have from that one company. I don't know if there's a need to go out and get additional estimates, but for this cost is probably, it doesn't meet the threshold for.
We just change anything over.
We have to get some bids for it, so.
So we still have to get bids, yeah, so this is just basically, an estimate. for- Got it.
Kind of lost my train of thought there, but, if it is a public building, we're talking about 6107 to be a public building. There are going to be parking requirements that have to be met for that building too, so that also requires parking will be put in addition to the existing impervious cover on there, so it's not like before where we talked about taking down the building and kind of reusing that impervious cover. It'd be more impervious cover we need to be putting into that, because the building would be there plus parking, and it would have some requirements on the number of spaces versus few spaces for the trailhead.
Mitigation required.
And then all the mitigation that would be required, and that's gonna be a tricky site altogether, so.
Public feedback taken, and I'm always open for more public input, but it was 5 months ago that we brought this up, put on the budget to have money to tear down this house, so it's fine, and you are the one person who, and it was today, maybe it's the two people.
It was just on the agenda,
But-
I saw. Anyway, sorry.
Right, so I'm going to create a straw man here and then vanquish it, but if I had to choose one of the two buildings to save, it would be the Galt one. It is a grander, nothing against this house, but the Galt one has this like great living room and just, these huge streets over and everything. I don't know, I'm more about returning this to nature, and it's a bummer. The house out of there, I'll supply some parking, which I guess will be expensive, but it can kind of like solve some problems for us in the city. As you said, let's get all the bids for one and both, just to see how much money we're looking at. It's can of worms I don't really want to open, but do we ever provide housing? We have one employee that lives in Sunset Valley. And it's done, right?
Oh, two now,
Really?
Barbara.
Oh, right, sorry. But as far as you know, if we can't get the golf property into commercial use. And I don't even. Barbara's probably screaming on her side, but like the idea of like allowing one of the properties to be housing for employees in some way. Housing ain't cheap, and you know, we're barely giving away as much as.
Oh, no.
I've been watching you, Rob.
It also looks like there's a black ghost behind you.
So is that supposed to be
Is that a motion?
a motion you're working on?
Well, we have probably, what would be good is, since we already have spent money on the geological survey, to go ahead, it doesn't mean we're doing anything, but to go ahead and adopt the ordinance, basically moving that money from restricted funds so that we can come to committed funds. Because again, since it was kind of the 11th hour parking lot item, it was set aside, but it wasn't really,
Committed.
yeah, it doesn't have a general.
Is it enough to just say it as written?
No. you don't have to-
Well, because we're waiting on, staff has directions basically to get more, staff has direction to get more information and more quotes on what would it be,
Okay.
what would be the benefits, right, to doing two at the same time or just moving forward with, right,
One.
demo and asbestos on the one property. But our recommendation, my recommendation would be to go ahead and approve that budget amendment. Because honestly, we have spent a little bit of money just on the geological survey, and then if we do want to move forward, we have that money.
Or C, I can do it just as written.
As written. Yep.
Rock and roll.
Yeah. I can do this. I move we approve an ordinance amending the fiscal year 23-23 budget. Budget amendment number 4 for work at 6107 Brody.
Second.
So this is just taking the money that we had set aside and moving it to where it's committed funds, so we can pay for the geological survey.
Correct.
And potentially pay for any additional. like
Any additional work, abatement,
But do you want it
Inspections.
listed to one house, or do you want to list both houses for that line item? or-
So you could say, I guess, just for
Brody Lane property?
Brody properties.
Friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment.
I counter with just listing both properties. Brody Lane properties is,
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just saying vague.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right, 6107 Brody and 6401 Brody.
And it's the second agreed.
Agree.
oh.
All right, so we have a motion that opens up for further discussion. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the approval of an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2022/2023 budget for work at 6107 Brody and 6401 Brody, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And then staff has a direction to bring back additional estimates for future agenda items. In the interim, there may be some president interest in looking at the problem.
But that'll give me,
Too late.
oh,
we've got
Tomorrow.
plenty of
Tomorrow.
time, yes.
I think it'll take some time to get these estimates
Yeah.
back, so I think it's not likely
Yeah.
to be coming back until the next
Another
at
meeting or
least two
two.
more meetings. So.
Yeah, and I would just probably say something back as a public comment, because we don't get the public
Yeah.
hears, make their own comments. Public comments, things and stuff. So I'll do that for, thank you very much for this.
Thank you. All right, council, so our last item is the executive session, so if I can invite you to the executive session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor of moving into executive session, say aye.
Aye.
We're gonna move into executive
Oh,
session.
7:40. Yeah.
And we will, of course, not take any actions until we reconvene. I'm not expecting us to take any action for those of you that are also.
Hey, Carolyn.
Hey, Barbara.
Hey, did you get that contract? That,
Yeah, hold on. Sorry. Hold on just a second.
sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I did get the contract. I was looking over it right now. I haven't had a chance to, I got it this morning. Oh, we'll just pop
Yeah.
You're just ready to go.
I could let two of you escape, but.
Yeah.
You know, stay for sure. Right. Council, we're rejoining public portion of the meeting at 8:00 p.m. We don't have any actions to take, so it's time we can take a motion on this.
I make a motion to adjourn.
There you go.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What's the name? All right, we're adjourned at 8:58.
I was like, I thought you were supposed to, I don't know.
Get in the chair here.
Formalist.